Which of these stories will you be talking about tomorrow? The clean air president? Don't hold your breath. Saying the smog laws are going to be reevaluated in 2013 anyway, the president scuttles new tighter pollution regulations. He'll stick with the ones that his own EPA director called legally indefensible just last month. The infamous U.S. Chamber of Commerce calls this, quote, an enormous victory for America's job creators. Mr. President, when the Chamber of Commerce pats you on the back, you are doing something desperately wrong. When Boehner's spokesman compliments you with the Freudian slip, it's the tip of the iceberg, you have made a terrible mistake. What the hell is going on in the White House? Ish hockey. The Pentagon still insists nothing has changed with its story of the 2006 attack on an alleged bomb maker in Iraq. But a leaked cable from the UN representative says our soldiers handcuffed 11 people, shot them in the head. One was a 70-year-old woman. 5 were children under the age of 5. Going to the World Knowledge Forum, are you? Why Sarah Palin's unlikely trip may mean she's not running, which is just fine according to a Fox News poll, which concludes she should stay out, which is just fine according to Dick Cheney.
Well, I've never gotten around to question of her having left the governorship of Alaska midterm. I've never heard that adequately explained.
Listen for that voice in Thurber's Oliver and the Other Ostriches. And worsts, the Tucson Republicans double down on raffling off a Glock in the city in which Gabby Giffords was shot by a Glock. The latest rationalization, a gun didn't shoot all those people, a guy did. And meet Lucien. Lucien decided the Grand Canyon was so wonderful, he had to spray paint his name onto it. All that and more now on Countdown.
Hi, my name is what?
Good evening from New York. This is Friday, September 2nd, 431 days until the 2012 presidential election. It is, in short, hard to believe. It seems, in short, to reduce his re-election campaign logic to, what are you going to do, vote for Rick Perry? President Obama announcing today, traditionally one of the quietest news days of the year, that he has withdrawn planned tough new EPA standards to regulate ground-level ozone, which is better known to you and me as smog. The fifth story in the countdown, the president hands a victory to corporate polluters and their enablers in the GOP and uses some of their own job creation nonsense lingo in the process, giving his own supporters another whack across the back of the knees for having had the audacity to support him. Smog. Old-fashioned term, you know, the brown stuff in the air that comes from power plant emissions, in industrial smokestacks and car exhaust and landfills, what we've been working against since the 60s. The EPA had planned to set its new standards significantly higher than those set by the Bush administration, which EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson had just told the Senate, quote, "We're not legally defensible given the scientific evidence." But the president, seen here leaving for Washington for the weekend at Camp David, said the new standards would be obsolete soon anyway. He wrote in a statement that work is already underway to update a 2006 review of the science that will result in reconsideration of the ozone standard in 2013. Ultimately, I did not support asking state and local governments to begin implementing a new standard that will soon be reconsidered. So, if you're having trouble breathing, or if you just occasionally do breathe, kindly help the president out and hold your breath until the year 2013 or later. Big business and big energy hated the new standards. Now the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is thrilled. Quoting, "This is an enormous victory for America's job creators and a big first step in what needs to be a broader regulatory reform." When the Chamber of Commerce applauds you, they are not applauding a liberal or a Democrat or even a people president. Environmentalists are angry or in mourning. Bill Snap from the Center for Biological Diversity. Obama, he said, utterly caved. Gene Karpinski, president of the League of Conservation Voters. "This is a huge win for corporate polluters and huge loss for public health." And Daniel Weiss from the Center for American Progress. "It's unfortunate that the administration is siding with big oil over the health of children, seniors, and the infirm." And say that again. Smog effects can worsen bronchitis, emphysema, and asthma, inflame and scar lung tissue, which makes you wonder House Majority Leader Eric Cantor had called the now canceled standards possibly the most harmful of all the currently anticipated Obama administration regulations. Harmful to whom? Sorry, corporations are people. Meanwhile, the economy is in the financial equivalent of a coma that a person might have. Job numbers released by the Labor Department today put the August unemployment rate at 9.1%, unchanged from July. Private sector jobs rose by 17,000. Public sector jobs fell by 17,000. First absolute zero since February 1945. GOP presidential candidate Mitt Romney played indignant.
No new jobs, net new jobs created in the last month. From my first day in the office, my number one job will be to see that America once again is number one in job creation.
He'll announce his jobs plan on Tuesday. Presidential candidate John Huntsman, who's already put out his corporate-friendly job plan, complained that, quote, in a country with 307 million people, zero job growth is unfathomable. The president, of course, is on much firmer ground here. The crocodile tears of the Republicans fool nobody. They have tanked the economy. They are tanking the economy. They will tank the economy. Elements of the jobs plan the president will announce next Thursday, unless it's been rescheduled to overnight or something, are said to include the following: tax cuts, innovative infrastructure ideas, measures to help the long-term unemployed, and like a blender or something. They had better be good. Bernard Baumol, the chief global economist with the Economic Outlook Group, told the Huffington Post, quote, many companies have simply come to the conclusion that labor is just too expensive. We're moving increasingly into a labor-less society. But take heart. If the GOP is right, tax cuts will solve that. And 5 Republican presidential contenders, given their polls, that's contenders with a very, very, very small c, are offering a really big tax cut. Michelle Bachmann, Ron Paul, Herman Cain, John Huntsman, and Newt Gingrich all want to eliminate capital gains taxes, a move that would benefit the wealthiest 1% of Americans who pay about 63% of the taxes each year, and reinstitute serfdom. For more on the politics of the EPA decision and the numbers of jobs, I'm joined by Brian Beutler, reporter for Talking Points Memo. Thanks for your time tonight, Brian.
Good to be back, Keith.
What does the president's decision to overrule his own EPA administrator suggest about where he thinks he stands with his own supporters? I mean, who on earth in the White House thinks this is a positive for them, and in which delusional parallel universe do they live?
I would say two things about this. One, it's the sort of like clearest slap in the face to his constituents and to the interest groups that sort of make up the Democratic Party that we've seen yet. You know, this is something that didn't require any action by Congress. This is something that he told these interest groups that he was going to do. He said, don't sue the EPA. We're in office now. We got this. It turned out he didn't got this, and it's not going to happen because he chose not to do it, not because Congress stopped him, not because anything procedural was standing in his way. It was just a decision to do it. The other thing I'd say about it is it's, you know, I think real evidence that either the White House isn't aware of President Obama's political mortality, or that they just don't care that much about the outcomes. If this doesn't happen in his first term and then he loses, it just isn't going to happen for years and years and years. And they made the decision for whatever reason to take that risk. You know, maybe he loses, and maybe President Perry just doesn't do it for 4 or 8 years.
I won't speak for you. I know that in the last 3 years there have been occasions in which I have been convinced of something and convinced this president was totally mistaken, and it turned out we were opposites. The truth was exactly opposite to what I believed, that he was absolutely right and I was absolutely wrong. But here's a question that I think is an indicator on this. The president really believed this was the right thing to do, that just postpone everything to 2013, because why change now? Because we'll be in a stronger position. Well, then why don't you just postpone it to 2023? But why wouldn't he have the guts to announce this on something other than the least paid attention to news day of the year?
I think that just adds a little bit of sting to it for environmentalists and for public health people, or public health advocates. But you know, he ordered this review of all costly regulations, you know, sort of as a chip to Republicans, and this is one of the ones that they've been coming at the hardest. And you know, he didn't get anything for it, but I think that there's a lot of people in the White House and in the Democratic Party, frankly, who think that if they just say, all right, well, you know, businesses and Republicans are demanding X, and if we give them X, then maybe they'll give us some running room a week from now, a month from now, for the next year on some of the stuff we want to do, and it really doesn't work that way. So I got to imagine that the decision to do it now is both a sign that they're sort of embarrassed of doing it, but also that they kind of hope that they're going to get things from doing it that I'm pretty certain they're not going to get.
Yeah, they should be embarrassed, and because they're still playing the plaintiff victim of the bully who keeps thinking if he turns the other way around, the bully's going to stop bugging him rather than asking for more. Clarify one thing for people who are saying, no, don't criticize President Obama. He's forced into this because there's something else connected with this. There's something bad in the bill. The House went Republican. This has nothing to do with the House, does it? This is just him, correct?
This is all within the executive branch. The EPA is a cabinet-level agency. This is something that is basically required by law. The Bush administration standards do not meet the standards that science advisors, the EPA, recommended, and the Clear Air Act says that the White House, whoever's in the White House, has to match those standards. This is all written out for him to be able to do on his own. Congress can make us think about it, and they can try to pass these basically symbolic measures of disapproval that he can veto. But there's no filibuster here. There's no direct legislative action they can take to stop him that he doesn't have immediate ability to veto. It's just up to him, and this is what he chose.
Yeah. Mind reels. Brian Beutler with Talking Points Memo. Great thanks for coming in on a Friday night. Good reporting on this today, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith.